Living in the 904, Northeast Florida's local real estate radio show, where we talk about the real estate market and the home buying and selling process, as well as what's going on in the 904. We like to talk about local events and talk to local business owners. And today we got the opportunity to talk to Alex from Hyperion Brewing, and we're really excited about that. Alex, thanks for being with us today.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, so Alex, I mentioned to you before, but I remember years ago, I don't remember exactly how long, but years ago, there was some event at Springfield, and they had some tastings by this new brewery that was about to open up, and you guys were there, and you had little samples, and it was really good, and it was exciting to hear about this new place because there wasn't a lot happening in Springfield as far as new businesses go, and then you guys opened, and it's been really cool to watch and then see other businesses start to open up there as well. So it's been cool to keep an eye on that. And then also, Mo and I, we had a broker open house. We were selling multiple homes in Springfield. So we wanted to partner with some local businesses over there. And you guys came out and did samples for the agents, giving them a taste of local Springfield businesses. So we appreciate that. But we're big fans. Can you tell us, where did the idea come to start Hyperion, and how did you get that going?
Gosh, it's such an interesting thing. I don't personally drink a lot of craft beer at home. I am a wino. I love wine. But I had a friend at the time who was very passionate about craft beer, introduced me to the whole scene in Jacksonville. This was in 2015. And we decided we're young. We don't have a lot of risk involved. Let's go start a company. I mean, what do we have to lose? And we convinced some people to give us some money and do it. And that's the simple way. There's been a lot of challenges in getting the actual brewery open, but it's been very rewarding. Some of those challenges have taught us a lot. So ultimately, I love drinking wine. And so at Hyperion, we actually have a great wine selection too. So it always catches me off guard how I got involved as well in craft beer.
Yeah. And then how did you guys zero in on Springfield for the location to start?
So one of the most important things in our business plan was to be a neighborhood bar. We wanted to be a part of a fabric of someone's community. At the time in Jacksonville, the only two neighborhoods in the urban core that didn't have a brewery were Murray Hill and historic Springfield. And so what we did is we really wanted to engage with customers. Our brand really relies on their feedback and their engagement. So we advertised to people at the time, hey, we're looking at locations in both communities. Who wants a brewery? And Springfield was by far the loudest, the most loyal, the most excited to see some of their commercial revitalization come back to life to follow what was already happening on the residential. And they pestered us until we decided to open in Springfield. Nice. And it's been fruitful ever since.
Yeah.
To get out there and get involved in that with craft beer and all that, did you come from a background where you were doing something prior and you're like, man, this is just a great new thing that I want to get involved with? Like, how did that start? Like your mindset to get going with craft beer?
No, actually, like I said, I did a lot of traveling for work before I came back to live in Jacksonville permanently again in 2014. And I got to see a lot of different types of craft beer and type of beverage. But at the time, it was truly about being an entrepreneur and starting something that I had my hands in, that I could control, to give, myself a better life. And I'm very philanthropic, so I didn't necessarily want to start a nonprofit, but we use Hyperion actively all the time to give back. So that brings meaning to my life. And there's a very, very selfish reason. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I think if people follow myself, they'll see more of that in the future. That's not necessarily craft beer. So I have done what I can to hire experts, right? We always say to hire people who know more than you. So our head brewer definitely knows more and is more passionate about craft beer. And that's what makes Hyperion so great. It's his love for the beer.
Yeah.
Funny, you think that, hey, I want you to meet the owner of Hyperion. You expect to see, an older guy, maybe a beard down to his chest. Yeah. So it catches you off guard for sure.
So you guys describe, if you could, for people that haven't been there before, describe your actual location and the setup of Hyperion.
Sure. So we are our own building. but we look like we're attached to other buildings, which is kind of cool. And the building is technically not classified as historic, but everything around it is. It was built in the early 1930s, and it used to be an old grocery store. The original grocery store was, I think, it was right before a Levitt's, which turned into modern day Winn-Dixie after you follow that history. And it was the first self-serve grocery store that existed on the block, with the Piggly Wiggly across the street as its competitor, which is kind of fun. So we take for granted today that we go into a grocery store and pick up all of our own groceries, but that was really novel and new at the time.
Wow.
So it has this long like format. So people can come in, grab a beer at our long bar, and then we really love encouraging people to go out into the garden, which we've renovated in the last 3 years.
Yeah. How does, we're in the middle right now still of just historic times that has touched the world in a lot of different ways. And it's had its own unique ways of impacting the food and beverage industry for sure. Can you talk a little bit about that and what impact, how that's caused you guys to change how you're doing business and what your next steps will be?
Yeah, so with the governor's mandate here in Florida, we were told we had to close doors to the general public. So no one's allowed to come in and enjoy a beer. We have been allowed to do what's called curbside pickup or to-go sales. We use a empty can that we actually have the ability to seal on site, so you can come grab a can of beer to take home. And we've been doing that for reduced hours, so we're only open 3 days a week versus the original 5 days a week we were open. So it's had a pretty dramatic impact on how we conduct ourselves for business, what kind of revenue we're able to make in that format. One of the pros is that we now have a completely online ordering system, which didn't exist before COVID-19. So it's definitely been a challenging situation, but our team, as small as it is, and as tight-knit as it is, we were as prepared as we could be to handle this, and we've just tried to put on good faces and, embrace each challenge as it appears.
Great. And then how do you see the next steps rolling out for you guys?
Whew, if I had that crystal ball, people would be paying me to be online talking about it. I think we should expect, at least at a minimum, reduced capacities, different table formats when you come in. It'll probably feel bigger and a lot more spaced out because we're removing tables and things like that. Right. Our staff's going to be wearing masks when we first reopen, and we won't be hosting any events for about a month when we reopen. And we'll just be constantly, I think, gauging what's appropriate and having to adjust quite quickly to customer feedback, governor mandates.
For people that love their local coffee shop, their local brewery, their local restaurant, this and that, and all this has been put on hold, as an actual business owner, what are your thoughts about how those people can best support these places right now?
I'd say right now, because we're all talking about reopening and what reopening looks like, if you know that you are going to patronize a place, whether it be right when they reopen or a month or even 2 months after reopening, gift cards work really well. It's just future cash. So you can basically inject them with money today, and they can, keep their employees on payroll to sustain while they're down. But then you get something in return where you can utilize that later on. Right. That's probably the best way to do it, especially as we talk about reopening, because it gives you the best immediate return as well.
Yeah. All right. Nice. Well, Alex, thank you so much for being on. We're a fan of your business and hope to see you guys continue out of this COVID situation and just go on to continue thriving as a business. We appreciate you being on and hope that people go check you guys out.
One last question, Daniel. I have to ask, as a beer enthusiast, what's your go-to at the bar? What would you recommend?
The wine.
Oh, my favorite is peanut butter porter. It's called Phoebe's PB. It is delicious. But most people who are new to Hyperion, we recommend they try Celine Citrine. It's a blood orange blonde. It's like basically juice. It's super fruity. It's a little bit bitter if you remember blood oranges just as a regular flavor. but people will definitely drink that one all the way down. I think it's because it's Florida and it's hot.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that one. When Mo asked the question, that's the one that I thought about, actually. I'm familiar with
And
it.
it's bright pink, so you know what they say about like real men drink pink.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I'll go with that.